What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content that I'm uploading onto my channel, then feel free to subscribe, and you can also offer suggestions on topics and characters and storylines and whatnot that we can have discussions on later on in this channel. Robcore. I know y'all have been waiting patient. Y'all have been struggling with regards to The Walking Dead. I know you guys have been dying to know, like, what happens in the Whisper War, man? Like, I need to know what happens. I need to know what happened after the last volume. So, with regards to the Whisper War, man, this is where things get interesting. Things get wild. Man, the ending of the Whisper War is crazy. It's crazy, son. So, again, what we had talked about in the last volume was that Negan had basically escaped, right? You know, this young kid, Brandon, who was pissed off at Rick, engineered Negan's escape. And Brandon was like, look, we're gonna get you to the Whispers, you're gonna spill the beans on everything you know, and we're gonna use the Whispers, and we're gonna take out Rick and his group, you know, and we're gonna call it a day. The issue was that Negan was like, nope, and Negan killed Brandon, and then went off to the Whispers on his own, right? So, what this does is this picks up immediately after the end of that. The funny thing is, keep in mind, you know, we have all these different guys. We have Dwight, you know, what I guess the second in command to Negan when Negan was running the Saviors. You know, he's the one that's running the Saviors at the moment, although he's kind of away from the main Savior base for the most part. But we basically have them, you know, kind of keep in watch, because keep in mind, the whole idea was that when Negan escaped, Rick sent a handful of people out, but said no one goes into no one crosses the borders of the Saviors if you don't have to, because the Savior said, look, if you cross our borders, we're gonna go to war. But with Negan showing up here, Dwight's immediate response is shoot him, kill him, shoot him on sight. I don't care, just shoot him right now. Be done with it. And this is kind of crazy because the people that Dwight are with, remember, these are the new guys. These are the ones that don't know about Negan. And Dwight's like, look, you do not know this guy the way I know him. If we shoot him now, it'll solve all of our problems. Well, thank God that they don't, because when Negan shows up, of course, he kind of taunts Dwight a little bit, talks to him a little bit. He even goes to reach for Lucille. He goes to reach for his bat, and Dwight's like, don't even think about it. And so they basically just kind of take him off, you know, to the to go meet Rick. Well, the cool thing, the aftermath of this, is that when Negan gets to Rick, he shows him the head of Alpha, and it's just like, yeah, I killed her. Now, the cool thing is that Rick's like, I don't know whether to believe you or not, you know, but he's like, hey, look, like, it literally is her. Now, this is the funny situation, is because Rick's like, why should I trust you? Like, you've been gone for a week. You literally tried to kill me when you were running the Saviors. Why should I trust you? And he's like, because it's the same reason that I didn't leave when my cell was accidentally left unlocked. You know, it's the same reason that I basically escaped with Brandon, killed Alpha, and brought her head back. I'm trying to show you that I'm a good guy. I'm trying to show you that I'm on your side. Now, this is kind of the irony of the whole thing, because what Negan's done is just make things worse. That's all he's done here. And it's hilarious. It's like a person who's like, hey, look, I want to show you how capable of a cook I am. So they try to cook dinner and they burn the house down in the process. It's like, look, your heart was in the right place, but like, you screwed up really bad. Like, you screwed up really, really bad. And so that's kind of the issue that Rick has to contend with now, because with Negan crossing over the borders, with Negan killing Alpha, Beta, as he stood, is not going to take Alpha's role. He's just like, we're going to avenge her death. The Whispers are going to war with Rick. Now, this was already intended, right? Rick was already like, we're going to go to war with them. Like, we're going to go there, we're going to wipe them out. But what this did is this basically took away the element of surprise, because even if Rick was able to take the Whispers by surprise, it wouldn't matter, because with Negan crossing over to their borders, killing Alpha, and then leaving, they're prepping for war. So it's not like Rick and his guys could just show up in the Whisperer camp and take them by surprise, take them unawares. They're geared up, they're ready for battle. And so because of this, it's really just grabbing everyone they can and trying to bring them over. I mean, you got people from the hilltop that are coming over. You have a couple people from the kingdom that are coming over. But here's the funny thing about this is, with the death of Ezekiel, William is essentially running the show now. Of course, William being one of the guys who was prominent under Ezekiel's rule, but he's also running into some various issues, especially from other people who were essentially standing against him. One of the people that's essentially standing up here to William is Zachary. And this is kind of the crazy situation, because Zachary and William have this weird situation in the sense that with no absolute, or at least it seems like no one person in absolute power, that a lot of people are looking to William, but a lot of people are also questioning his leadership. And that's par for the course, right? Like, that's what Kirkman's always doing. Kirkman basically says, hey, look, things run a certain way until like that leader's gone. And then when that leader's gone, things fall into disarray. People begin to look at things with a slanted eye. We saw that with Maggie, right? Like, Maggie took over the Hilltop Colony. She basically was the one running the show, but there were some people that didn't ally themselves with her. They were just like, we don't really see her as the legitimate leader. We see Gregory as a legitimate leader. And even after Gregory was killed, they still looked at Maggie with slanted eyes. It's the same thing here with regards to William. Not everybody looks at him as a legitimate leader. Not everybody says he's the guy that needs to be running the show. Now, the cool thing about this is William starts considering the prospect of getting rid of people who get in his way, just like people normally should in these particular roles. When you're dealing with warfare, there are people who agree agree with you and then the people who are dead. And so because of that, it's an interesting situation in terms of how you function in this capacity. And so what we do is we pick up with Andrea and Rick, and this is actually a pretty significant conversation here. And the reason why is because Rick basically sat down with Negan and said, okay, fine, here's how things are gonna be. You have somewhat earned our trust, but not really. And so he's like, Negan's gonna have the opportunity to kind of live out in no man's land by himself, isolated away from everybody else. But until he gets that, he's going to have to earn it. But the issue here is that Negan's not being thrown back in prison again. But even Rick asks Andrea, do you agree with my decision? Do you think it's the right one? Andrea's response is, well, I mean, do what you gotta do, I guess, you know, but at the end of the day, the big question that she has is Negan a guy to be trusted? Is Negan someone that you can put your faith in to have your back when you need it? Or will Negan just wait for the right opportunity to be, you know, for you to be at your most vulnerable, kill you, and then take your place? That's the question that Andrea is asking, and that's the question that Rick is pondering. It's the big thing in the back of his mind the entire time. And so because of this, Negan's basically assigned to Dwight, right? You know, Rick's like, Dwight is gonna keep an eye on Negan the entire time that he's out there. But again, they're also prepping for the arrival of the Whisperers, knowing they're going to war. And so what they do is they have one of their guys basically go up, they have one of the guys, Gabriel, go up to a water tower to keep an eye out. The problem is that as soon as Gabriel gets up there, he sees a mountain of zombies. He sees hundreds of zombies all heading their direction. Well, at this point, panic sets in because no one knows. No one has any idea that this is coming. Gabriel's just like, there's hundreds of zombies that are heading over here. There's Whisperers probably mixed with them. You've got people who are reading books, cleaning out their guns. You've got people who are smoking cigarettes. You got people doing a multitude of different things, but none of them are prepared for battle. None of them are prepped for war. When these zombies come rolling in, they're basically going to be taken by surprise. And that's almost exactly what happens. Now, the issue here is that where Gabriel tries to bail out, tries to get down, tries to tell everybody what's going on, he's tripped up, and in his attempts to try to get down the ladder, he's killed by Beta, and then he's consumed by the zombies that are walking by. And so at this point, it's really just up to everybody else to kind of try to understand, or at least try to rally to their cause with these walkers showing up. Now, this is where things become beneficial, because keep in mind, Dwight's been teaching everybody how to shoot. He's basically been the leader of their army. We don't really get any specifics in terms of how far his military training goes, but we're basically told that he has some measure of military training. I mean, we don't know if he was like a Navy SEAL. We don't know if he was just a guy who was part of the army, and that was really about the extent of it. He was just some enlisted man, and that was really about it. We don't know, how far his whole experience goes. But what he does do is he rallies them all together. Now, the funny thing about this is that Negan's not given a weapon. Negan's not given a gun. He's the one guy that's doing nothing. He's like, really? He was like, we're in the middle of a war and no one's gonna give me a gun. Like, no one's gonna give me a weapon. I'm just gonna have to sit here and watch everything unfold. And that's really what happens. But this is actually cool because remember, walkers are just slow moving. They're slow moving and the Whisperers have to move with them. And so because of that, as long as they can keep the numbers relatively thin, they should be able to take them out. The issue is that the closer the walkers get, the little more adventurous the Whisperers become, and they start moving out and begin slashing at people. Well, then of course, after this, chaos reigns supreme. And that's really what ends up happening. I mean, the lines aren't really falling so much as people are beginning to fall. Now, for the most part, the defense is there. I mean, you've got guys from the kingdom that finally show up, that finally make their way out there. But it's really just this idea that the question's being asked, can they maintain these lines? Can they keep it held together? Can they stay on focus? And so it's really kind of these gathering of forces from a multitude of different places. It's not a full contingent, like a whole great big huge thing, but it's a gathering of forces. I mean, you got Michonne, you have Jesus, you have a few people out there, who show up and they're really able to hold them off in full effect, to be honest. They're able to do pretty damn well. The issue with this is that the numbers just keep coming. The zombies just keep coming. And that's one of the greatest things about The Walking Dead, right? Like that's one of the things we love so much about this. There was a really, really good quote from World War Z, and it was when the main character was interviewing Todd Wainio, and they were talking about the Battle of Yonkers. And he said that when people think about major warfare, they name them campaigns like Operation Shock and Awe. It's like, well, what do you do when you go against an enemy that can't be shocked? An enemy that can't be awed, an enemy that doesn't get scared, an enemy that's just filled with a desire for flesh and just keeps on coming and coming and coming. All you can ever really do is just hold them off as best you can. And so because of this, with Dwight being pinned down, Dwight being attacked by Beta, really what he does, he grabs what little, energy he has, he grabs Lucille and he throws it at Negan, and Negan says, welcome home, baby. Like it is beautiful because it's so awesome. It's like we finally have Negan and Lucille united. And I never thought I'd be so excited to see a man and a baby baseball bat united. Like, I never thought it would just be like, yes, Negan finally gets his baseball bat back. Like, I never would have thought that I'd say that before, but I did. Like, I was going through this and I was like, oh my God, he gets Lucille back. And it's so cool to see because it's like, it makes him complete, right? Like, up until this point, it was just like parts of Negan. Up until this point, it was just like, Negan is just not whole because he doesn't have Lucille. But once he has Lucille, he goes to work. I mean, he literally, Negan starts getting himself in the ass kicking business, and business is good. And he starts tearing through everybody. The problem with this is that when he's attacking Beta and he goes to basically crack him over with a baseball bat, Lucille breaks. Lucille dies. Lucille is dead, guys. And it's just one of the most crushing things, because Negan just starts crying. He's just like, no, Lucille is dead. And it's this crushing thing because it's like you feel for him, right? I mean, and this is why this is kind of important. This is why Lucille matters. For people that aren't familiar with The Walking Dead, people that have never read the comics, people that don't know the origin story of Negan, they just kind of see it as as a baseball bat. They're just like, whatever, it's a baseball bat, who cares? The important thing to keep in mind here is that Negan's wife was named Lucille. He named his baseball bat Lucille in order to basically keep his wife's memory alive. With his baseball bat being destroyed, it's like the memory of Lucille is gone. The memory of Lucille isn't there anymore. And so because of that, again, these walkers are continuing forward. These walkers are continuing on. The battle just kind of continues to rage, albeit with people trying to catch their breath here and there. But at the end of the day, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of ability in terms of, them being able to stave it off. Instead, they're doing what they can when they can, but that's about it. Instead, what happens is Dwight has this genius idea. Dwight says, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. What we're gonna do is we're literally gonna grab whatever Whisperers we can, we're gonna strip off their skins, we're gonna put them on, and then we're gonna go into the zombie horde and we're gonna start killing Whisperers. And it's a genius idea because it literally allows them to carry out their goal to basically wage war against the Whisperers and fight the Whisperers on their own territory. It's classic Sun Tzu art of war. That's basically what it is. When you're fighting a war and you're on unfamiliar territory, go to familiar territory. Have them fight on your terms. And that's exactly what happens. It's really like Michonne, it's Dwight, a few other people just sort of roaming through this group. Now keep in mind, at this point, Beta's been injured. And so Beta is basically just kind of being carried off, being moved by some of the other Whisperers to the point that he's like, look, we got to go back. What we have to do is we have to enact Plan B. Now what Plan B is, we don't entirely know. Instead, what we do is we pick up with this second assault. And this second assault comes in the form of the Whisperers who have basically moved a zombie horde towards the direction of the Hilltop Colony. And it's kind of crazy here because everybody becomes aware of the fact that the Whisperers are there when flaming arrows come flying over the wall. And this is why the Whisperers are so capable, right? Because we would look at them and say, well, they're guys who just walk around and they just kind of stab people around, zombies, so on and so forth. But zombies use presumably a sense of smell to determine who's human and who's not. Because of that, the Whisperers can just kind of move around arbitrarily. The zombies pay no attention to them. They can fire off arrows, flaming arrows. The zombies don't have any reason to believe it came from them because as far as the zombies know, the Whisperers are zombies. And so they're basically invisible to these guys. They can act, relatively speaking, without drawing too much attention. But the idea here is that they start tearing through, fighting through the entirety of the Hilltop Colony. Now, the other half of this, and this is actually something really, really cool, is that Alpha's daughter basically turns against the Whisperers. Because remember, the entire reason why the Whisperers are here at the Hilltop is half to take out the Hilltop's defenses, but the other half is to grab the daughter of Alpha and bring her back. And of course, the daughter's told, look, Alpha has fallen. Alpha's gone. And the daughter's like, I don't care. I'm not part of you anymore. I'm not part of your group. And she just starts taking out all these different Whisperers. Now, of course, the Hilltop's able to hold its own. The issue here is that between Sophia fighting, between, Carl fighting, everybody who can fight is fighting. It's really them kind of making this last stand at the Alamo in the sense that everything is just burning down around them. So sure, they were able to keep themselves alive, but every situation in the Hilltop, everything inside the Hilltop is basically gone. Everything worth fighting for is gone in its entirety. And so because of this, we have this entire assault being looked at by Beta, and Beta's like, we have to keep going. We still have to launch Plan B. And so the idea is, what in the heck is going on behind Plan B? What in the world is taking place here? What are the Whisperers' final intentions? So what we do is we pick up with Dwight and his various guys, showing up at the Hilltop. Everybody's like, where were you at 4 hours ago? That kind of crazy response. But it's interesting to see this situation because it's people really kind of rallying after this conflict, rallying after this war. And even Rick and everybody else goes to say, hey, look, we won. That's basically what happens when Dwight and everybody starts showing up, when Eugene shows up with this, with these crates and crates and crates of ammo, when everybody starts coming back to the Alexandria safe zone, it's like, yeah, man, we won. Like, we managed to fight them off. We basically defeated the Whisperers. Their leader's dead. Their forces have been pushed to the brink of almost complete and total destruction. There's nothing left here. Well, then this is when we learn what Plan B is. When Dwight's talking to to Rick Grimes, you know, he's like, yeah, man, we did it. You know, I couldn't believe we pulled it off. It was basically a handful of us. There were hundreds of walkers that came through here. We got rid of them all. We won the war. Rick's response is, hundreds? Dude, this war is far from over. Rick races off. And this is when we find out what plan B is. That the Whisperers are moving a zombie horde toward Alexandria, over 10,000 strong. 10,000 zombies at least being moved to Alexandria, and they're going to overrun that place. There's no way to defend against a zombie horde of this size. With that being said, guys, this brings an end to the Whisper War. There are a couple themes that we didn't run over with regards to like the Saviors kind of, you know, taking up or intending to take up arms against Rick. But again, I really wanted to focus on the Whisper War in this video, you know, because I don't really know what direction things are going to go after this. I mean, this is literally as current as we get with The Walking Dead. Like, we finished the story arc that just finished. So we are 100% current. What we do next, I'm not sure. I guess we'll go back and cover older stories until the new ones come out. But yeah, like it is wild, man. Like things are gonna get insane. Anyway, guys, yeah, we're gonna bring this video to an end. Let me know what you think down in the comments section, what you guys think about this whole Walking Dead thing, because I love Kirkman's Walking Dead. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, I will catch you all later. Peace.